So Red Magic are one of my favourite brands when it comes to gaming smartphones. So these beefy blowers are a bit more affordable than the usual Asus ROG efforts, and yet the performance is suitably trouser-rousing and they're absolutely packed to the tits with excellent gaming features and obligatory RGB shenanigans. Not to mention an absolutely filthy virtual assistant.
Are you up, Commander?
Well, I certainly am now. And now Red Magic has made the leap from gaming smartphones to gaming laptops with this here Titan 16 Pro. A suitably dramatic name, and like those gaming smartphones, it comes with an affordable-ish price tag. But is it much cop? Well, I've been testing it out for the past week, so here's my thoughts on the Red Magic Titan 16 Pro. And for more of the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now the Titan 16 Pro is quite clearly a gaming laptop, you can tell that much from the RGB shenanigans, which to be fair isn't over the top. You've got a bit of branding just beneath the screen, and then if we spin her around, got a bit of logo action on that lid. And the logo lighting is of course fully customizable from within the laptop, so you can have it doing this rainbow pattern, otherwise you can just have it always on, any particular color that you fancy. Got a variety of other patterns, otherwise you can just knock the thing off if you don't really want it. You've got a choice of one color, black, so not much of a choice really, and it's an all metal chassis as you'd expect. Aluminium lid, aluminium frame, and it's all suitably tough. There's very little flex here. So certainly the Red Magic Titan 16 Pro is reassuringly rugged if you want a laptop to bung in a backpack take wherever you roam. Of course, this Titan does get rather fingerprinty as well, as you can see there, so you'll want to keep a cleaning cloth handy, give it a good old buffing every now and then. Of course, as is befitting of a laptop called Titan, it is a proper chunkster, 24 mils at its thickest point, and it weighs 2.4 kilos. So while I've certainly reviewed bigger, heavier gaming laptops, it is right up there compared with the more slender offerings that you can get in 2024. But yeah, it doesn't exactly splinter your shoulders when you pick it up. As for the ports, well, most of those are located around the back end of the laptop. Going in order from left to right, you've got a Thunderbolt 4 port, you've got HDMI 2.1, got a USB 3.2 Gen 2 port for up to 10 gigabits per second transfer, and a bit of Ethernet action too. Now if we flip around to the left edge, here you've got yourself another USB 3.2 Gen 2 port as well as an SD card reader. And then on the final edge, yet another USB 3.2 Gen 2 and a headphone jack. I would have liked to have seen a second Thunderbolt port, or at the very least a couple more USB-C ports, but you can always slap a dock on if you need to. And as for storage, Red Magic has chucked on a 1TB PCIe 4.0 SSD, which of course fills up really fast these days, so external SSD on standby. But what about the tasty subject of performance? Well, the Red Magic Titan 16 Pro is powered by Intel's Core i9-14900HX, backed by 16 gigs of single-channel DDR5 RAM, which is apparently expandable, and I'd recommend doing so. I've heard a few reports of this chipset causing general performance issues and crashes even. Thankfully, haven't had too much trouble with the Red Magic. I've certainly seen some judders here and there whenever I've been starting up apps or switching between apps. Occasionally the screen's just frozen for a few seconds, it's like uh-oh, but then it's sorted itself out. Zero major meltdowns to report so far at least. And as for those visuals, well, they're handled by Nvidia's GeForce RTX 4060. And as usual with gaming laptops, you can customize the performance. So you've got an office mode, you've got a balanced mode, and you've got a gaming mode. Of course, for all of your high intensity shenanigans, definitely stick it on that, because that will overclock the CPU, give you the best possible performance. And because everyone loves an obligatory bit of benchmarking, I updated all of the Titan 16 Pro's drivers and software. I stuck it on that gamer mode and the Windows high performance mode, and then ran the usual 3D Mark shenanigans. And this certainly proved that the performance is consistent here on the Titan 16 Pro. So for instance, I ran Steel Nomad a good few times and it always spaffed out a score around the sort of 2350-ish mark. I also ran Port Royal to test out the ray tracing capabilities, and this coughed up a score just under 6,000 each time. As for that CPU profile test, well, with all threads running, the Red Magic Titan 16 Pro managed to score of 11,488. I also ran a couple of stress tests, and not good news for the Red Magic there. With Steel Nomad, it managed just under 95%, and with the Port Royal stress test, it managed a score of 96%. Bit better, but still not quite a pass. And the main bottleneck here appears to be that memory, hence I would recommend upgrading the RAM if you can. And of course that will bump up the price, which is the main selling point of the Red Magic, the old affordability. Thankfully, however, my gaming experience on the Titan 16 Pro was better than those benchmarks suggested it might be. So for instance, a good bit of Forza Horizon 5 played on the extreme graphics settings at Quad HD resolution and ran absolutely beautifully. Solid 60 frames per second performance, no worries there. Didn't see a single judder, any tearing, any kind of issues whatsoever as I was absolutely tearing around these courses, slamming into absolutely everything in sight. But the game that I mostly played here on the Red Magic Titan 16 Pro was good old Helldivers 2, which ran flawlessly at the highest graphics settings and resolution, maintaining a frame rate over 60 frames per second, no matter how batshit mental everything got. On one occasion I played solidly for about 3 hours and the performance did not dip at all, and I didn't notice the laptop heating up significantly. Now you've got a dual fan setup for cooling down this massive metal gate when it's under a bit of pressure, and those fans hit around 4,500 RPMs when they're maxed out. They're also backed up by 4 composite heat pipes, plus the usual bit of thermal greasing. Sexy. And the cooling system does a respectable-ish job of moving that heat along. You've got the vents along the sides and the back end. I did notice that above the keyboard still got pretty toasty, but the keyboard itself and the palm rests only got moderately warm during some intensive gaming action. But of course, as with most gaming laptops, those fans get rather loud when they are on max performance. So I certainly wouldn't recommend gaming in, say, your bedroom when somebody's actually trying to get some kip. Now Red Magic has slapped a 16-inch IPS display on the Titan 16 Pro. It's a 16:10 aspect ratio. So quite well suited to your more office-based tasks if you fancy doing some work in between your gaming sessions. It's a Quad HD panel, 2560 by 1600 pixel resolution, so those visuals are pretty crisp, certainly good for this price point. Even though it's an IPS panel, the colours are pretty poppy on the default dynamic setting. You've also got almost full coverage of the sRGB gamut, so pretty good if you want to do a bit of photo editing on the side. Refresh maxes out at 240 Hz, and of course, because you've got that GeForce stuffed in there, got the usual NVIDIA graphical shenanigans to keep everything looking smooth and tasty. And when you boost that brightness all the way up to maximum levels, hits around 500 nits, so nice and bright, and also you've got an anti-glare, anti-reflective finish there. So don't worry if the environmental conditions aren't exactly ambient, you shouldn't struggle to see what's going on. And the Titan 16 Pro also sports a DTS:X Ultra certified stereo speaker setup, which is perfectly fine. I did prefer gaming with a headset, of course, to really get that full-on surround sound effect. And very few complaints from me when it comes to the keyboard as well. Of course, you've got that full quad zone RGB shenanigans as usual. Completely customizable, of course, as you would expect. You can just quickly knock the RGB shenanigans off with a quick function spacebar tap like so. The keys have got room to breathe on that chassis. It's a pretty firm board overall as well. Decent-ish amount of travel. Nice big fat cursor keys, which is always a bonus. Not quite as much of a fan of the touchpad, which you might just about be able to make out against the black chassis here. It's shunted all the way over to the left. And I found that certainly when you're trying to do a left mouse button click, you got to tap it right in the far corner, otherwise it usually just doesn't register. You can be clicking away in the middle here and just nothing will happen. And you've also got yourself a 1080p Full HD webcam housed in that skinny bezel just above the screen there. As you can see, when the camera's in use, that blinding LED light comes on, so at least you're aware of that. There's no kind of privacy shield or anything. And this does offer Windows Hello support as well, but not always reliable. Sometimes when the lighting's not particularly great, it's just like, nope, pin please. And last up, the battery life, and Red Magic has stuffed an 80 watt-hour battery inside of the Titan 16 Pro, and as usual with gaming laptops, battery life is pretty cack. Just about stretched to around 2 hours of playtime, and that's if you're just messing around in Chrome, maybe downloading some games in the background. So yeah, you'll want to keep it plugged in, like obviously when you're gaming and pretty much the rest of the time too. Thankfully you do have a super nippy 100 watt fast charge in here, so it does power back up in a jiffy when needed. And that right there in a nutshell, my lovelies, is the fresh new Red Magic Titan 16 Pro, an affordable way of playing the latest titles at Quad HD resolution, but of course when it comes to the general game and performance, not quite as strong as some rivals, even if those rivals do generally cost a bit more. definitely a few tweaks here and there. I think the second generation should certainly be a gaming laptop well worth looking at. That's what I reckon anyway. It'd be great to hear your thoughts on the Red Magic Titan 16 Pro down in the comments below. Please do book, subscribe, ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone. Love you.